The flurry of offseason moves has settled down in the NBA, and we're beginning to have an idea for how each roster will take shape and look. Well, for this Philadelphia 76ers team, there's still quite a few questions to be answered regarding what the starting lineup will be and how these final few roster spots will be rounded out. I want to break down why there's a particular player already on the Sixers roster that is going to have a much larger role on the Sixers team than seems to be getting acknowledged, and that player being Ricky Council IV. I'm going to break down what I saw from him out in Las Vegas, as well as kind of an idea for where his fit on this team is. And to jump right into it, I want to kick it off with taking a look at this Sixers current depth chart. So at point guard, we have Tyrese Maxey, Kyle Lowry, and Jared McCain. At shooting guard, Kelly Oubre and Eric Gordon. At small forward, Paul George, Ricky Council IV. And at power forward, Caleb Martin and KJ Martin, who recently signed his deal there. At center, Joel Embiid, Andre Drummond, and Adem Bona there. So for starters with Ricky Council, we're kind of living in an era in basketball in which the positions have become less and less strict. And to put it plainly, I think he's going to be playing more of his minutes at the technical power forward than small forward, although there surely will be a couple players to beef up this rotation at a few pieces to make sure things are looking a little bit clear. But for Ricky Council IV, I thought he was the number one guy to stand out in Las Vegas Summer League thus far. Still a couple games to be played too at this point in time, so there still will be some takeaways, but he did exactly what you're hoping for. For a guy who's a second-year player, you want to have that idea or that look that they look maybe too good to be playing in Summer League, and that's what we saw for Ricky Council IV. And it is always interesting when you see players like Ricky in these type of roles, that when you think to what his NBA role, it's going to be much different than what it looks like in Summer League. Obviously, he's taking step-back threes, he's getting to the free throw line double-digit times, all these types of things, and that's not going to be how he projects at the NBA, but that doesn't mean there's not takeaways to be had. And the number one thing that jumps out to me about Ricky Council IV, I thought was put spot on in this quote by Keeve Aluma here, who said, quote, "I feel like Ricky is the battery pack out there. Watching him, the way he's athletic out there, I'm able to go off his energy and feed off him." And that's the number one thing that jumps out with Ricky Council IV. He's going to be playing harder than every other player on the floor. He does an excellent job at getting to the free throw line, and that is really interesting to me because that's a pretty unique skill for a player that's going to be more of a complementary role piece. Generally, when you think about those type of players, that what they excel at are things like, catch and shoot three-pointers or perimeter defense. For Ricky Council, probably the best characteristic in his game is just this energy and this ability to get downhill. And he's probably the most ethical foul drawer that I've ever seen as well. That there's no, feeling a slap on the wrist and going up in a shot, as Joel Embiid often does. There's no jumping backwards into defenders to draw a foul, as Jalen Brunson does. For Ricky Council, it's a guy who straight up gets downhill, attacks with his athleticism, and just forces guys to foul. And it's clearly effective for him. Now, it was a little strange watching how things played out with the Ricky Council experience last year. I thought every single time that he got an opportunity through Nick Nurse that he was able to shine. He was able to show what he could do. There's even moments like that victory over the San Antonio Spurs that went to overtime where he had one of the more impressive passes I've seen in my lifetime, attacking to the basket and a huge wraparound pass that led to a massive corner three for Nico Batum there. I wish Nico Batum well back out there in LA. Wish he was staying in Philadelphia. But Ricky Council is a guy that I do think made things happen in those moments. And to take a look at what his production otherwise, just take a peek at his G League stats last year. This being in the regular season in which he played 11 games, averaged 23.1 points per game. You can see getting to the free throw line 4.5 times there. 2.5 assists, 2 turnovers. He rebounded the ball at a fairly decent rate, 5.4 per game there. Shot 46.7% from the field, 35% from three there. Those are areas where he looked pretty good. The scoring seems to have taken a stride forward in Summer League. That I do think I'm seeing an area of a little more confidence, a little more determination to put the ball in the bucket. And there's always this interesting kind of mental dance here, as clearly these guys are all competing for their NBA careers, not just in Philadelphia, but across league-wide. So there's kind of a little bit of a understandable selfishness that you can see in each of these players. I've definitely seen that from Ricky a little. Some of these step-back threes, or just a little bit, shots that he will not be taking or should not be taking in the regular season are absolutely occurring. But I am loving like the way that he's carrying himself. He's carrying himself as he's the best player on the Sixers Summer League roster. He's carrying himself as a guy that is ready for the NBA and does not want to be there. And those are good signs from a guy coming from year two. And by the way, Ricky Council IV has been this level of guy. To flashback and take a look at his college stats here, let's not forget his final season at Arkansas, averaging 16.1 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 1.1 steal. The biggest thing here is he was on a talented Arkansas team. We're talking about Anthony Black, who was a top 10 pick, Nick Smith Jr., who was a first-round pick, Jordan Walsh, who was a second-round pick by the Boston Celtics, were all on that roster, and Ricky Council IV was the leading scorer on pretty much a night-to-night basis there. Now, the biggest concern with him and kind of the biggest swing skill that we've seen was with that three-point percentage, that at the collegiate level, through his career, just a 30.3% three-point shooter, shot just 27% in his final season at Arkansas. He has shown some signs of progress with this. Looking at his G League numbers here, again, this being just the regular season, that he shot 35% there. It looks even a little bit better than that. The form's still not as perfect as I would like it. It does feel like he's got a little bit of two-hand on the ball. It's not as clean of just a one-hand follow-through that you would like to see, but that's just kind of the way he shoots it. It's the same thing with free throws, and he's still connecting on them as a very high rate. So if it's working for him, I'm not a guy that's going to tweak people's shots to that point. As long as it's going in, that is the most important thing, and we are seeing signs of progress for that with Ricky Council IV. But particularly why I think the role is open for the taking for him on this Sixers team, it is that rebounding and it is that energy. Now, we can't do revisionist history and wish on the past, but I would have loved to, in that New York Knicks series, to have Nick Nurse take Ricky Council and throw him out there for a little bit. Not because I think he was overly skilled, and I'm not saying that Ricky Council could have won that series, but what I do think he could have done is been a guy to say, go run with Josh Hart and stop letting him dominate us on the rebounds. That is an area where I think Ricky Council could fit. And again, when looking at this depth chart and at this Sixers team, there's not a lot in the area of rebounding. Obviously, Joel Embiid is what he is as a rebounder. Andre Drummond, one of the greatest rebounders ever. And Adem Bona is a guy who does look ready for year one minutes, that I do think he'll be in the mix. I still see him as more of a center than a power forward, unfortunately. I've seen a lot of the comments and a lot of people hoping that that can be the case, and I certainly hope so as well. But I'm seeing in his game right now, he plays pretty much like a traditional rim-running, shot-blocking center in my mind. Who knows as the season goes on, as he gets the chance to play next to Joel Embiid, and for what it's worth, on the offensive end of the floor, because of Joel's ability to step outside and his comfortability in the mid-range, there is a little bit more ability to make that work, that they could potentially share the floor. But I do think that's more of a work in progress, long-term goal than anything I think can impact this Sixers team from day one. Now, when looking at that power forward spot, as of now, it is shaping up to be Caleb Martin being the guy locking down that spot. Now, I like Caleb Martin. He's also a guy that I had a chance to speak with out there in Las Vegas, who seems very excited to be coming to Philadelphia, and a guy that is ready to fit into the mentality. But what he's not is a guy that is a super high-level rebounder. That just last season, averaging 10 points per game, 4.4 rebounds, 2.2 assists, shot 43.1% from the field, 34.9% from three. He's a guy that hasn't played a ton of power forward really throughout his career. He's played some. It's kind of varied on a year-to-year. I believe last year in the playoffs, 12% of his minutes were officially logged at the power forward. And this also feeds into my conversation about, how positionless basketball has essentially shifted to becoming. But the bottom line is you're asking him to step up a lot in the rebounding department. When you go down this Sixers roster, there's really not that many plus rebounders outside of Andre Drummond and Adem Bona there. So we're talking about Paul George, a pretty good rebounder, a guy that can rebound. We're talking about a guy like Joel Embiid is a pretty good rebounder, a guy that, is capable, 11 rebounds per game, but I think that has much more to do with his size. So take a look at Andre Drummond. We know the high-level rebounding there. Paul George, just 5.2 rebounds per game there. Then when think about the other guys, Jared McCain, a good rebounder, but he's still a guy that is 6'2". Even a guy, like Eric Gordon, 6'2". He's not going to be a guy getting in the mix with that type of thing. So if Ricky Council IV can really hone in on that area of his skill, and I think he has all the tools to do it, I think he can carve out a role with this Sixers team. That there's these different ways that you can go about it, right? When you think about a guy like Joel Embiid, that he rebounds well because he's 7'2", he's the biggest dude on the floor, and he's a rim protector. That most of his minutes on the defensive end of the floor are going to be directly under that rim. Then there's a guy like Andre Drummond, who has a little bit more skill as a rebounder. There's a little more nuance to the way that he attacks the ball. But then you compare that to a guy like Josh Hart, who is all effort, all energy, all athleticism, and has a feeling for how to rebound. That's kind of the category that I could see Ricky Council IV shifting into. And what speaks to Ricky's ability, or what speaks to my optimism with Ricky's ability here, is he has shown to be malleable so far. That we've seen opportunities with him playing super on ball, super a driving force, a guy that is running the offense. We've also seen him be a guy do a lot with little opportunity, and that primarily speaking about his time with the Sixers. That when he was up and playing with the big leagues, there was never a moment where it was like, let's run a play for Ricky. It was simply him making things happen with putback dunks, or chasing offensive rebounds, or creating extra possessions. That's the area that I really think he could fit on this team, and that type of motor, that type of dog that he has in him is pretty necessary on the Sixers team. So I know we're asking a lot for him to make this leap, but he's looking like he's already taking it. That seeing him in Las Vegas, seeing him up close and personal, he's playing with a new confidence that I did not see from him last year. The skill set is there, that we know the athleticism, we know the motor, we know the energy level, and all those things are going to be very important on this Sixers team. So to Ricky Council IV, I think the opportunity is there for the taking this year. This team still needs rebounding help, and he's a guy that can absolutely provide it. So as you're starting to pencil in your minutes or expectations for this season, do not forget about Ricky Council IV. We will see how things shake out from here, but my level of optimism for how many minutes this guy can play at the NBA level certainly has increased. Now, also make sure to check out with RB. We got a little interview with Jared McCain following the game. We got that out on the channel as well, so make sure you tap into that video. Make sure you subscribe if you have not already, but I want to hear from you guys in the comments as well. So appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in. I will be talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button, and I will talk to you next time. Peace.